welcome back to RSAC 2025. This is Jackie McGuire. I'm the practice lead and principal analyst for security at theCUBE, and we are live. I am joined by guests Brian Vecci and Rizwan Jan. Thank you for joining us, guys. You have a very interesting position at Varonis. We were just talking about all of the different, we have a list of like 20 things to talk about, and I was like, you know, come to think of it, we're going to get to maybe half of these, and some of them are really juicy, so welcome, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
So I guess first, let's start with intros. So if you guys wouldn't mind introducing yourself, Riz, we'll start with you.
Sure.
Tell us what you do and what you're excited about at RSA.
Rizwan Jan, I'm Vice President and CIO at the CNA Corporation, so we're in the national security field, and what I'm most interested about here at RSA is just networking, meeting people, and seeing some of their pain points, and makes me feel better because they share mostly the same pain points as I do. So.
Misery loves company. That should have been the title for RSAC 25.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah, and Brian, why don't you tell us about what you do at Varonis?
So my name is Brian Vecci. I'm the field CTO at Varonis. I've been here about 15 years. We're a security company. That's what we do. We sell software. So I'm here to network, listen to pain points, tell stories, and hopefully sell some software. Because that's what we do.
That would be great.
Like to be perfectly candid and honest. That's what we do.
So I met with Matt yesterday to talk about his keynote, which is about getting gamers into security. So hopefully when the gamers hear his enthusiastic endorsement, lots of them will buy your software.
I certainly hope so.
All right, so we have a few things here. You guys actually brought up an interesting thing that we used to say when I was at Cribble as well, which is data is the new oil, right? And so I think data in and of itself is kind of a currency, and a lot of data brokers have been trading in this currency for the last 20 years, but now we're starting to see that companies now with the AI and kind of what makes or breaks your deployment of AI is the data that you have to weaponize it with, right? So can you tell us, Brian, a little bit more about what you mean when you think about data is the new oil? And then Riz, afterwards, I would actually also like to understand how you think about data from your perspective, because you're in a little bit of a different perspective and you deal with, I think, significantly more sensitive data. So,
sure. Yep.
I look at it this way. Nobody breaks into a bank to steal the pens. They're after money, right? So data is what a threat actor is after. If you're an insider threat, if you're an outside attacker, we talk about ransomware and cyber attacks. You know what gets held for ransom? Data.
Yeah.
So when we say data is the new oil, what we mean is of all the digital assets that enterprises have, data is what's most important. It's also what they have the most of and they know the least about. It's very difficult to protect something when you don't know what you have and where it is, and I'm sure we'll get into that, but data is what is valuable from a digital perspective, and you said it yourself. You want to take advantage of AI workloads, you want to monetize the data that you have, you need to know what you've got and you need to protect it.
Yeah, and Riz, you deal with a lot of highly sensitive oil. So, so how do you think about so I guess one of the things that I've heard quite a bit the last couple days is shadow AI is the new shadow IT, right? And that like you can't even protect things that you can't see. And so a lot of these places we have people kind of like drilling holes of oil that you don't even know they've drilled, and so when someone else comes along and drinks your milkshake, as they say in No Country for Old Men, you don't even know that you had a milkshake to drink, right? So Riz, you have tons of sensitive data. What do you do to make sure that you don't have shadow data and nobody drinks your milkshake?
Yeah, we do. I mean, we work in a classified environment, and then outside of that, we have a lot of sensitive data too, but you got to understand what your crown jewels are, right? There's a great story about United Healthcare that happened last year in 2024 when they got hit by that ransomware attack, right? And they ended up paying $22 million just to get their data back, and then $2+ billion for reputational harm and to help their subsidiaries out, and crushed 142 million Americans with their healthcare data. So understand what your data sets are. Take the AI out of that first, right? Get your classification, your data classification in order. Then you understand what you're protecting. And then from there, yeah, you could do all the fancy stuff with AI and all the next gen technology that's coming out right now. But understand your data set first.
Are you saying that enterprises are sitting on dirty data? Don't all enterprises have their categorization and classification dialed in?
You would think. You would think. These are
I
the little
wouldn't
things,
think that.
right?
I mean, who trusts their users to actually label and tag data?
I didn't invent the term, but I do frequently use the term data swamp, which is what happens when you let a data lake fester for too long. You end up with a data swamp.
100%.
Yeah, and so I guess when we think about, when you think about this kind of shadow data and crown jewels, like, how do you go about figuring out what those are, and then how do you prioritize how you're protecting that data?
Well, I think I'm going to tell you a story that illustrates what happens when you don't. So I met the AI security, I don't know what her actual title was, the AI security person from one of the big banks. Mm-hmm. And they wanted to test how valuable something like Copilot was. Mm-hmm. Copilot being ChatGPT for all of your emails and files and everything you've got access to. And so if you've ever worked for a bank, you've ever been in IT for a bank, the people that get the most love are the traders. They have 9 monitors, they've got the latest phones, the latest laptops, because if you can make a trader more productive, even 1% more productive, the bank will make more money, right? In theory. So they gave Copilot for 365 to one of these traders, and this trader, being a smart person, asked a question that he thought it would help him in his research. What stocks do our employees invest in? Figuring somewhere someone has written a report, and I'm going to get a couple of paragraph summary, and that'll help me in my day. Instead of getting a couple of paragraph summary of a report, he got tables of employee names, socials, account numbers, and their 401k positions.
Yep.
And it's not because Copilot gave him access to some financial system that he wasn't supposed to have access to, or he was an insider threat, or he had broken into something. It's because somebody somewhere had saved a spreadsheet, stuck it in a team site, shared that with a distribution list, and inside that distribution list was everyone except external users. So everybody in the bank had access to this data. To your point, almost every company has a giant data swamp, and they have no idea what they have and where it is. Mm-hmm. And it's the unknown unknowns that are going to kill you, especially when you give people the greatest information retrieval tool ever.
Yeah.
Now, I see this at banks and manufacturing companies and insurance companies. You got to deal with this all the time.
Deal with it right now. And that's one of the issues too, is the business actually puts all the burden on the security staff, and the security staff doesn't know the business's data and what their crown jewels are. So there's that disconnect, right? Historically, most cyber people are introverts, so they don't even want to leave their cube. I mean, don't get in their basement. They don't even want to leave. The only reason they'll leave their basement is to get pizza, right?
That's why I make the big bucks, because I'm autistic and a people person.
Right. Exactly. But you got to be able to first understand the data and have those conversations, right? Then you could go from there. But that's
you asked the question, where do folks start? Most security teams don't even know what they don't know, and you can't just say, well, the business will tell me, because of course they won't.
Yeah.
It's a lack of visibility, it's a lack of telemetry, and then it's a lack of automation. How big is your team, and how stretched thin are they? And I'm saying the royal you, all of us that have security teams, nobody has enough time and people to go chase down every alert, to go look at every control, to prove that every control is correct. So it's visibility and automation. At least that's the way we come at it.
Yeah.
3.8 million jobs, right, in cyber that you can't fill because of talent shortage. So
it's not a shortage, it's a gap, right?
There you go.
It's a gap, because we need people with experience, and we have a whole bunch of people fresh out of boot camps and college, but we have no way to give them the experience without putting things at risk, right? I do want to make a small correction, because I have a wonderful production team who informed me that I misquoted. I Drink Your Milkshake is actually from There Will Be Blood, not No Country for Old Men, but it's in relation to oil, because he's basically talking about drilling into somebody else's oil pocket. So I want to talk about data misuse, because you draw a distinction between data breaches, which is where data is actually extracted, and just data misuse in terms of, so can you tell us Brian, what is data misuse, and then how does that compare to data breaches?
Well, as you said, a data breach is when it's right there in the world. It's been breached. Data has been exfiltrated by an unauthorized party. What's interesting is a lot of the new, in security, it's easy to harp on regulations. It's easy to harp on the galaxy of acronyms, whether it's SOX or HIPAA or PCI or GDPR. But what a lot of them are saying these days is the data doesn't have to actually be stolen in order to notify that something went wrong, right? NYDFS says if data is even accessed by an unauthorized third party, if it happens to be accessed and encrypted, even if it's not stolen, you got to notify someone that their data has been misused, even if it's not lost or stolen.
Right.
The hard thing for a lot of enterprises these days, and again, it goes back to visibility, what data do they have, and who is actually using what, and is it authorized or not. In security, it is often easier for things to fail open.
Yeah.
Right? It is easier to leave the doors open and not break anything rather than be a bull in a china shop, go and lock everything down, and then hope nobody calls you up screaming saying, why can't I do my job?
That's how you end up with management interfaces exposed to the internet, because it's easier to expose that Snowflake database to the internet than to get a pissed off call from somebody in the executive team that they can't access that information.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, awesome. All right, we're gonna have to wrap up pretty soon because I think you guys have a really busy day. So I want to ask, what's the one thing people aren't talking about at RSA that you wish they were?
I think we touched on this last night a little bit too. The computational compute that's being stolen from everybody, right? A couple of years ago in my previous organization, we got hit by North Korea, and they were mining crypto on our devices, and our performance just went down the tubes. And that's when we were a Varonis shop. We had to call Varonis up, and they came in and did some good forensics work on our behalf. But those are one of the things that that no one's really talking about at RSA is, ransomware, all this stuff, but the compute power that's just being lost, it's stunning.
Yeah, I actually had a friend who found adult material being hosted on a government website.
Scandalous.
Yeah, because if the government will pay to host the videos, it's a lot cheaper than paying yourself.
My tax dollar is going to host pornography.
I know. The great CUBE content everybody tunes in for. So what about you, Brian? What do you think people should be talking about?
This is going to be self-serving, but we focus in security. If you think about security as layers of an onion, you have controls at the perimeter, and there are the great endpoint providers everywhere. You have controls at the identity layer. You have controls at the physical perimeter, the data center, or the virtual perimeter. You've got CASB and those technologies, but it's all in service of protecting data. And going back to the first thing that we talked about, it's companies don't really know what they have and where it is. They don't know what's important and what's not. They don't know, especially in a world where everything is connected together. You got data on-prem, you got data in the cloud, you got data in files and databases and applications that are all connected together by design, and everything fails open. Companies really need to focus on what investments are we making to protect their oil. To go back to the metaphor that we started with. That's what's valuable. Data is what's valuable. Nobody breaks into your systems to steal configuration files. They're after data. And without the visibility and without the automation, companies really struggle to protect it. That was way too much. You said one thing, and I think I gave you 5.
Configuration files they want to steal too because they're probably wrong.
Yeah, probably wrong.
Yeah, I was joking with somebody that I found out a vendor was compromised, and I was like, that actually might be good for national security because their tech stack isn't great. So if the hackers start using it, it might not be a bad thing. It might slow them down.
What's funny is we used to have, especially when it came to data, the ostrich defense. If I don't know about it, I don't have to fix it. But the attackers, the bad guys are going to get there before you do.
Yeah, plausible deniability.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Riz. Brian, really enjoyed having this conversation with you. We'll try to find you at some of the after hours events so we can continue our less on the air appropriate conversations from before the video.
Everybody be good.
Yeah, everybody behave yourselves tonight. But thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
For theCUBE, I'm Jackie McGuire at RSAC 2025. We are live, and we'll be back after a short break with more insights. Thanks, everybody.